what I'm doing here is testing the inverter connected to a couple batteries in series. I think that's called series, parallel. Basically, it's still 24 watts, but you're getting double the amount of juice here. And I've got some water here that I'm just seeing how long I can cook for on these batteries before it dies out. So today what I'm working on is the power source for my fish farm, and this actually needs to go in here. These MC4 connectors are actually really useful, and I'm thinking about using them in multiple different ways, not just for solar. One of the ideas I have is actually using MC connectors that will attach to the battery here, so I can actually attach, and what the ones I'm thinking about using are these 3 ports. So basically I can attach 3 things to it to ultimately charge this battery bank up. And I've been testing it, and it runs, I tested it the other day actually. Under here is my HI stove, and it ran for an hour on these two, actually more than an hour. So an hour, it takes me 2 minutes to cook an okonomiyaki omelet, so that's quite a few omelets. So what am I going to do with this power source? This power source could be to help charge this battery, but ultimately what I'm going to use it for is for this. Ultimately grow our own food, and an amazing source of protein is fish. Now, growing your own fish has its own challenges, but the first thing you're going to need is a pond. So where do you do a pond? Well, I'm just doing it in my front yard as part of our salad garden food forest. These are all trees. It's spring, it's actually March 15th, and winter has just ended. And right here is going to be a water source for the garden. This is a food forest. There's all these trees and everything. And what I have here is actually, this is a DC pump that will run right off solar. So these 2 wires here are actually going to connect to 2 more of those little socket things, and when I plug it in, the sun should power this unit. And I can't remember what this is, but I remember that's a 20. Okay, so here it is. So it's 12 volt, and you need 16 watts. That solar panel produces 20 watts. So hopefully it's going to be enough. Hopefully it won't be putting out 20 watts all the time, because from what I understand, that's probably too much power for this. But it's a DC pump, which means I don't need to change this to AC for it. Now, I've been thinking about how to use this pump. I'm actually thinking about mounting it downwards, and so it floats on the top, and it sucks the water in from the top. And then I'm going to do basically like a nozzle here, so it jets the water around and creates kind of a current in here. So the other thing that I've purchased are these aerators. This aerator here is actually running. This is actually a $20 unit, and that's quite expensive in my view. Now, this unit here, if I remember correctly, was only like $8, but it runs on DC batteries. Now, my idea is actually to attach solar to this, and I need to maybe use something like this here, where I mount the solar panels under this thing. It's not quite flat, so it's not going to work, because I've already broken one of my little panels. These little things are really brittle. So ultimately, the next stage, well, I've got 2 of these pumps, is to create aeration and to attach it in to it. Now, these are just, you look at this here, basically is 3 volts. So the solar panel could ultimately hook these into this and run this. But again, I'm not much. I may end up burning this out if I correct it directly, or I could do basically each of the little panels I think puts out 1.5 volts. So 2 of those panels I believe is all it needs to run this. And I could actually have some wires coming out and have a little panel on it. So this is another little project. As you can see, it puts out quite a bit of bubbles. Our goal at Foundups is to teach people to become food independent. Now, you're not going to be completely independent of food. There's always going to be stuff that you need to get and everything else. But ultimately, the more food that we can produce, the less reliance we are on the grocery store, the more free that we are. And that's the goal here. So let's continue on this project. I really haven't quite finished this. I need to actually put some more stone in that area right there, because the water is basically going to be coming up here. And one of my ideas is actually have the water pumping up and coming down here like a waterfall off these stones and putting in oxygen. So the reason for these double stones here is actually to create kind of like a waterfall effect. And whether I use a tub like this that feeds in, kind of filters the water and then pours it back out, so, or maybe something that ultimately will be buried into this side there, and it fills with water and then pours the water out. So it's going to be sitting at an angle like this. And then this water here, I'd cut out here, maybe like here, and the water just comes up and flows into it, back into the water. And here, basically there's another pump around here, aerator, ultimately is moving around and cleaning the water with some bacteria and stuff living in some sponges that you just rotates around, and that's a type of filtration system. Or you could even put a bucket inside a bucket. So put some holes around this, and this becomes kind of like a filter within a filter, and the water spins around in here and helps filter out the water that's coming out of the pond, and then puts the water back in there. I haven't decided yet how I'm going to do it, but maybe I'll do that. Maybe this will be the center part, will be where all the bacteria lives, and the sponge has the roof on it, and then basically fill this up with some stones and stuff at the bottom too, make that the filtration on the bottom and on the side, and then have it come out, and then basically I could tap out this hole or that hole over here, and this could be the exit. Actually leave that on there and let it kind of pour out of there. I like that idea. I could even put, push some sort of fabric or stuff around here again as a filtration thing to hold antibacteria cultures. And what they're going to do is actually eat the nutrients and stuff out of the water and help filter it. So I'm going to get out of these clothes here. I'm going to mix up some more cement. I'm actually going to go and get some stones and finish off this project. So I have the solar panel, and I got it hooked up, and I actually put on these two end caps, and I've tested it, and it's putting out 20 watts or volts, 20 volts on it. It's really good to have this because it basically tells you if you got it backwards, because the negative. I even color coded the wires, and here are the other wires I've color coded and put the ends on. Now I'm kind of apprehensive what's going to happen here and whether it's going to work or not, because this is putting out 20 and this is scheduled for only 16 watts. 16 watts power, 16 watts. I'm not sure. Volts and watts. Golly. This is where this is going to work or not. So powering it directly from this isn't going to work. So what I realized is I need to put a battery and have this going to a battery, and then having the solar power charge the battery. And with that set up, it's going to work. So moving on to stage 2. So it's working. I waited for the sun to come out, and this is actually putting out about 5 amps now with the sun out. So this is actually now working. Now what I can do is actually stick this also on a battery and have this powered, and then have this charging the battery. So I've got my water pump. Did injure my thumb. So what I'm going to do next is actually hook this up to a battery and see the difference, and probably have this set up so it charges the battery, and having the battery power the pump, which is probably a better way. So during the day it's basically charging the battery and then ultimately running the pump.